and good morning from Inverness. And it's October, which means I'm playing an American football competition down in Aberdeen. So I thought, hey, I may as well just fly up to Inverness and maybe take in some of the trains that I didn't do last year. We're going on this train here to Wick. And it's my first time ever riding the far north line, and everybody tells me it's absolutely stunning. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I've got a sandwich and a drink because I don't believe there's any catering on today, and it's going to take over 4 hours to get us up to Wick. And also shout out to Walter, who I bumped into yesterday. And one thing, Walter, if you're watching, I did go back to my B&B and watch the documentary on Shinty. Boy, and I thought NFL was a difficult and violent sport. Shinty, it's a whole new league. So yeah, if you like violent sport, Shinty's the game for you. Anyway, it's still pretty early. The Class 158 behind you there hasn't even been started up yet. And I think I've probably got time for a coffee before we hit the train. And then come along then, and we'll see how it goes. Yes, so here we are at Inverness Station, which, although it isn't necessarily an architectural gem, does have most of the things that a traveller needs. And that includes a left luggage service, which I shall be making use of in a couple of days. There seems to be a flat rate of £5 to leave luggage, and you buy a token from the ticket office. At Inverness, the ticket barriers stay roped off until shortly before the train is due to depart. But that's fine. I need a coffee, so it's time to take a seat in Costa for a bit. The train is due out in 10 minutes, and so the barriers are open. And I've just bought a Highland Rover, which gives you 4 days travel during an 8-day period. It does give me a level of flexibility, and it does include some bus routes as well. Our train this morning is this ScotRail Class 158 two-car diesel multiple unit. They have a design top speed of 90 miles per hour, but we aren't going to come close to that today. All the seating is standard class with a mix of table and airline seats, although it's mostly tables. And they're pretty comfortable seats, given they're the Grammar IC 3000 seats that you would also find down my way on GWR high-speed trains. There's USB power supplies for my hungry GoPros, and legroom under the tables is reasonably tight. But the seats themselves in their ScotRail Solitaire Moquette will do me just fine for over 4 hours, and remember, 4 more hours to come back. There's good-sized overhead luggage racks, and there's also luggage stacks in the centre of the coach. We're going to be leaving a few minutes late. As this is a single-track line, we're waiting for an incoming train. So, while we wait, let's have a look at our route for today, but I won't list the station myself. I'm going to get my ScotRail assistant to do it for me today.
This train will call at Muirvord, Dingwall, Allness, Invergordon, Fern, Tain, Argyll, Lurg, Gosby, Brora, Helmsdale, Forsenard, Georgemas Junction into Thurston, back to Georgemas Junction into Wick for 1456. We also have request stops at Calrain, Inversion, Rogart, Dunrobin Castle, Kildonnan, Kimbrace, Altenbreak and Scots Calder.
Thank you. And all I need to add is that the journey is 280 kilometres or 174 miles long, and we are scheduled to take 4 hours and 15 minutes, which gives us an average speed of 66 kilometres per hour or 41 miles per hour, which isn't bad considering the ruling line speeds and the terrain. And the incoming train is just arriving, so we'll be away. And we leave past ScotRail's extensive depot at Inverness, and then it's time to head out onto the first part of our journey, crossing over the River Ness, from which the city gets its name. And then we slowly cross the Caledonian Canal on a swing bridge, which is just below the Clachnahary Sea Loch. And then beyond what looks like some old canal buildings, there is the first view of the Bewley Firth. Water will be a feature of nearly the whole journey, as we will see firths, lochs, rivers and the sea many times before we reach Wick. Road traffic will cross the Bewley Firth at Inverness on the Kessock Bridge, which was opened in 1982, but we still have to skirt the whole Firth until we can cross at Bewley. These modern road bridges are the reason why a bus from Inverness to Wick is actually much quicker than the train, taking just under 3 hours to complete the journey. And we're across the River Bewley and on to Muiravoord, which is our first stop. And there's some people leaving us here, but also a few locals joining us for the short hop to Dingwall. The River Conan drains into the Cromarty Firth, which we will be coming upon very soon. Dingwall is a junction station, and trains for Kyle of Lochs will peel off west at this point, whilst we continue on for the far north. And here is the Cromarty Firth. The shelter provided by the Firth makes it home for bottlenose dolphins, harbour porpoises, grey seals and harbour seals. Whilst minke whales and other types of whale are occasional visitors, though I doubt they will pop up today. And the Cromarty Bridge is another one of those 20th century additions that makes the road journey that much faster. The deep water of Cromarty Firth has been used for many years to build and maintain offshore equipment, for oil, gas and increasingly offshore renewables. At the port, my guess is these are legs from rigs, but I suppose they could be wind turbine supports. And you can't pass Invergordon without mentioning their two strongest sons, Luke and Tom Stoltman. Tom particularly has won the world's strongest man in both 2021 and 2022. And when he won, I'm guessing the locals raised a glass or two to him. There are steps at Fern because it has a very low platform level, and the steps can be moved into place for people who struggle to make the jump. Oh, and Fern looks to be the prettiest station we've seen so far, and I'm guessing it's now a private house. And once across the River Tyne, we enter the town of Tyne itself, which is our gateway to the Dornoch Firth. Once again, the railway will now make a long inland detour, whilst, yeah, you guessed it, the A9 road will cross here on a modern bridge built in 1991. As the Dornoch Firth drifts by, let's talk about this railway. The Inverness and Ross-shire Railway opened the line from Inverness to Dingwall in 1862, extending it to Invergordon in 1863. It was in 1868 that the line also reached Golspie, with it finally arriving at Wick and Thurso in July 1874. These long diversions certainly make the line a little less practical, but they sure do add to the scenic and therefore tourist nature of the line. This is a really great journey where, frankly, time is really not an issue. And that's a good job, as the Dornoch Firth, by my rough reckoning, is about 15 miles long, and we still will not be able to cross at the end of it. We will have to continue along the Kyle of Sutherland for a further 3 miles before the Invergordon viaduct gets us across the water. I must say, Ardguy Station has a wonderful view across the Firth from its platforms. And once across the River Carron, we join the Kyle of Sutherland, which flows into the Dornoch Firth. At the end, we will cross the Shin Railway Viaduct, which has the stations of Coleraine and Invergordon at each end, making the stations just 684 metres apart, which therefore must be one of the shortest gaps between two stations anywhere in the UK.
This is Coleraine. This train is for Wick. The next stop is Invergordon. We are now approaching Invergordon. This is a request stop. Please mind the gap when alighting from this train.
I changed seats here, and going up the thickly wooded Shin Valley, I kept the camera running, just in the hope that the trees would part for some kind of view, but it wasn't to be. At Legg, minibuses await the train to provide connections to some communities even more remote than these. And look, someone is using the service. At Legg, our progress north is halted as we have to turn southeast to follow the River Fleet down to the coast, where we can finally resume our northbound trek. And everything is starting to feel a little more remote as we progress through the old county of Sutherland. And at this point we've been travelling for 2 hours, so we are roughly halfway there.
We are now approaching Rogart. This is a request stop.
We stop at Rogart, so maybe someone is boarding or alighting. Or maybe it's just a point where the driver is stopping to receive permission to continue into the next single line section. The guy in orange is a reminder of what must be a Herculean effort to maintain and keep open this line throughout the winter months. And the River Fleet has crossed under the line just before Rogart, so now it is visible from our side of the train. Although I may be a little distracted for a while by this sandwich which I bought in Inverness. It was very good. Sandwich eaten, and we burst out onto the banks of Loch Fleet before swinging north for Golspie. What a wonderful station house it is at Golspie. It was built in 1868 as a combined station and post office, and is now a 4-bedroom home. Dunrobin Castle is the family seat of the Earl of Sutherland. The Earl actually paid for the extension up the coast to Hemsdale, so I think we can allow him the indulgence of his own railway station. Beyond the castle station, we start what I think is the most spectacular section of the line, as we head up the North Sea coastline through Brora and on to Helmsdale. Parts of this section remind me a little of the East Coast Main Line, as it runs up the coast through Berwick.
We are now approaching Brora. Please mind the gap when alighting from this train.
Despite its rural setting, Brora is quite an industrial centre. It used to be home to the most northerly British coal mine and was the first place in northern Scotland to have electricity. Now, I'm not generally one for background music, but I think this little section lends itself nicely to it. So, I'll step back whilst we ride up the coast to Hemsdale. And that's it for our coast run. Hemsdale itself stands on the headland, but our driver's eyes are set on the valley of the River Hemsdale as we head off inland towards the moorland and Georgemas Junction. But not before we get a view of Fowler's lovely 1871 station building and a very nicely preserved signal box. Here the A9 road continues up the coast to Wick, but if we are going to cross over to get to Thurso, then we're going to thread our way between the hills up the Hemsdale's valley. My guess is that this is a deep, wide glacial valley, and from here in the train there's some lovely views of the river and the mountains beyond. And as it gets more remote as we travel further north, there's very little chance we'll be stopping at the request stops.
This is Kildonan. This train is for Wick. The next stop is Kinbrace.
And just before Kinbrace, we bid goodbye to the Helmsdale to pick up the much smaller Bannockburn. And before you ask, no, it's not that Bannockburn.
This is Kinbrace. This train is for Wick. The next stop is Forsonard.
And nobody needs to stop at Kinbrace either. We are roughly at the high point along here, and as you can see, there's old wooden structures just off the line that I think were probably used to protect the line from snow, causing it to drift just a little away from the trackside.
Please mind the gap when alighting from this train.
And at Forsonard we meet the southbound train, the 1234 from Wick. Our train will form the final departure of the day from Wick at 1600. And I will definitely be on that train as the weather is due to get pretty bad tonight, with Storm Babet coming in from the east. Although it's only 2:15 in the afternoon, the gathering clouds mean the light is really starting to fail and it feels very bleak up here indeed.
This is Outta. This train is for Wick. The next stop is ScotRail.
At Georgemas Junction, our train will stop and then reverse along the branch to Thurso. The huge freight crane at Georgemas Junction was built in 2012 to handle the transshipment of nuclear material from the nearby Dounreay reactors to the Sellafield reprocessing plant in Cumbria. Quite a lot of passengers alight at Thurso, and there is quite a large Premier Inn right by the station. The layout and design of both Wick and Thurso is very similar, although at Thurso trains do not actually enter the station's train shed. My camera's microphone doesn't really pick it up, but on this return leg the sound of the gale whistling around our Class 158 is pretty loud. The second stop at Georgemas Junction will be pretty brief, as this time the train has no need to reverse. And that's soon going to be it. But not before we pass our last loch of the journey and then pick up the River Wick for another riverside run into our final station. And by this time, the couple that have come up from Inverness who were planning a night in Wick have changed their plans and will be returning south at 1600 on what ScotRail predicts will be the last train out of Wick for fully 48 hours.
Are we supposed to be saying yours now? ScotRail or ScotRail haven't said it isn't, so...
And Wick station is wonderful. The train hides from the weather safe inside the train shed, where there's also staff restrooms and public toilets. The main concourse is beautifully kept, with a waiting area, a ticket office, and even the bike rack is inside, out of the weather. And that's it. That was the Far North line from Inverness here to Wick. And what a stunning, stunning journey that was. Beautiful mountain views, sea views, loch views, the moors. I mean, what's not to like? Everything about it was wonderful. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. That was great. And yeah, Storm Babet is about to come in now, and so I'm very, very pleased that this train here has only got 45 minutes left before it goes back to Inverness, and it might be the last train out of here for about 2 days. So yeah, I'm rather pleased that I managed to squeeze this journey in before the storm came in. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have, then do give it a like and subscribe to the channel, as I do kind of things like this. But in the meantime, from this beautiful little station at Wick, I bid you goodbye and thank you very much for watching.